All right. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, everyone around and in between. This is DebateSensei, NFA LD edition. And we have the director of debate from Western Kentucky University, Chad Meadows, with us to discuss things. Thank you very much, Chad, for being with us.
Yeah, I really appreciate that, Jared. And I'm super excited to be here and get talking NFA LD and the topics and everything involved with it.
Yeah. So I thought we'd start at just sort of setting the groundwork because NFALD is one of the types of debate that chooses one topic all year long. There's other types of debate that they public forum releases something every couple of months. Some limited preparation debates change their topic every round. What do you think about what do you suppose the philosophy is behind NFALD choosing to do a single topic all year?
Yeah, so the idea behind doing one topic for the entire season is to simulate that policy debate going deep perspective into one topic for an entire season, and it kind of helps to frame the students' research. I found when I write recommendation letters, you can almost talk about how the volume of research that they've done on a single topic as synonymous with, say, an undergraduate thesis. So one way I like to describe it is that they're doing 4 undergraduate theses each year that they're in college. So I think it's the intent is to have an event that is accessible to novices and to still be challenging for varsity, that simulates that experience of the season-long research project.
Well, getting a single topic if you're going to have an entire, association with hundreds of people that are involved in it, that there's a process that needs to take place. And so right now we are at the point in which the process is already taking place. So we're going to kind of go back and take a look at that. It's kind of laid out in the website, which is great.
Yeah.
So at least this part right here is really cool because you have all the time limits, which isn't as relevant. But this is what I thought was interesting, that there is a predictable sort of cycle of themes, I guess, that you go, or the topic area, a rotation that you have. And so give me an example. What was the topic last year again?
So the topic last year was on democracy, and it focused on restrictions on campaigns related to campaign finance or to their advertising. So it was about having more restrictions on campaigns and what they are allowed to do during elections. But yeah, I also love the topic rotation. It actually came about. It's pretty new. You'll honestly find most things in LD right now are pretty new. It came about, I would say, 3 or 4 years ago. We haven't made it all the way through the full rotation yet. So it actually started 2021 to 22. And it happened because I think we had 3 domestic topics in a row that were chosen. So before 2021, there was no rotation, and we got 3 domestic topics in a row. And there was some discussion about how students who maybe are majors that are international affairs, have an international focus to their degree program. If the international topic wasn't chosen this year, they would get 0 exposure to that component of research for all 4 years. So there was a lot of push to create a topic rotation to ensure that balance between international and domestic.
Okay. And so this year's no restrictions. That's just this free for all. Okay.
Yeah. So no 1 year is just free for all. Any topic can go.
Okay. And they landed. Well, let's take a look at, instead of where they landed, but the timeline for this. So well ahead of time. So we know that even next semester, next season, what we should expect in general. But this was here we go. We start off with topic area for the topic rotation, and then 4 topic papers. Okay, solicit 4 topic papers. So a total of 4 topic papers.
So that's a minimum.
Oh,
So basically, around May, we would like to have at the very least 4 topic papers that are written from the community. And basically, it's the job of the committee chair. There's a Lincoln Douglas debate committee that's in charge of creating the topic, and we'll get into that. But it's the job of the committee chair to make sure that there are at least 4 committee papers that are submitted. This year, there were actually 12 that were submitted. Yeah. It was the largest number of topic papers that have been submitted in years. So moving down to May 1st, up to 6 can be chosen. And so they actually had to pare down the 6 from 12 initially. And that happens within the NFA. That happens within the committee, and they had to choose themselves by ranked choice voting the 6 that would be actually voted on or actually debated and talked about for the resolution.
Okay, now do you have to be a member of NFA LD like in order to submit a paper? Oh, really?
No.
So like I could just write one up and submit it.
Definitely. So there's some guidelines associated with like what is suggested is in the topic paper. But realistically, any person. So, we've had people who are outside the community who do it. Alumni have submitted papers. So the process is pretty wide open in regards to who can submit papers.
Wow. Okay. And so when you said you got 12, does that mean that there was 12 that met certain guidelines, or was that just 12 total? Like
12 were submitted. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, so it's not like you're getting overwhelmed with just a bunch of like garbage papers. Okay.
Cool. There aren't too many people who are interested in submitting papers.
So you said you had to whittle it down to 6 topic papers, and I found this. These were the 6 that were chosen?
Yes.
Okay. And so you can see how it's you've got foreign and domestic, international and domestics, totally.
I think it was a challenging year to whittle it down because you do have that big mix of domestic topics, international topics, and people are really territorial and really like intense about their topic paper being the one that they want to be chosen.
So where do you have any inside knowledge about the ones that weren't chosen? Was there any discussion about what those ones were and why?
So that process didn't include a lot of community dialogue. The topic papers were submitted, and then the committee themselves met and through their own discussion chose which 6 would be the ones that they wanted. So there was a little bit of eyebrow raising in regards to what that process is like. And so that actually would be something that we look into moving forward, which would be maybe formalizing a little bit more community dialogue about, even which 6 papers are allowed to be voted on for the resolution for the season.
When you're dealing with that many options, though, the more people that get you have to have a really sophisticated method, you know what I mean, in order to do it, I guess. I mean, you could do a reducing options technique where you're just just what gets the least votes or something like that. But even then, if you have 12 options, that starts bordering on an unwieldy ballot. You know what I mean?
It's very unwieldy.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that this process, is pretty nice. Of course, I think there's always ways to improve upon it, but it's pretty interesting. It's cool. So, of these ones, did any factions form around certain topics about what people wanted to do? Was there any discussion amongst the people, outside, or was there any campaigning for some over others?
Yeah. So there, I think, were a lot of people who were very interested in the foreign engagement topic.
Okay.
And so that topic would have involved things like the United States lifting sanctions and sort of like normalizing our relationship with
Okay.
countries that we don't have a good relationship with. So think we're lifting sanctions on Iran or Russia,
Mm.
or we're formalizing our military relationship with China, or allowing ourselves to cooperate with the country of China on issues in regards to outer space. You know,
Okay.
those barriers that we have between the United States and other countries, lifting those and seeing and sort of like advocating for more international cooperation. There were a lot of people that were really passionate about that topic being chosen. My students were very passionate about education reform.
Okay.
Some of them helped write the education reform topic. And at least in my observation, kind of like a faction formed between the folks who wanted to have a domestic topic that
Uh-huh.
stuck to, the more like realistic sort of like debates of the day, if that makes sense. The sort
Yeah,
of
yeah, yeah, yeah.
debates that you would sort of like have, around the table. Education is a huge hot button issue right now that a lot of folks are talking about. People are getting involved in school boards, and there's a ton of literature being generated and interest being generated in regards to education. Healthcare was another one that I think that faction was really into. So I think kind of if I were to say there was a faction that formed, it was like the education, healthcare, maybe even a labor faction
Okay.
that was like kind of pitted against the folks who wanted either the nuclear posture, space, or foreign engagement.
I
The
see.
folks who kind of are more interested in the like, big
Yeah.
international
Yeah.
debates that get messy with, discussions about the causes of war and the different
Right.
kinds of military options we have to deter war, or to execute wars. So, I think in a lot of that comes down to, your background as a student. For instance, I've got pre-med majors who like were gung-ho about healthcare.
Right.
Makes
Right.
sense because they want to be doctors.
Right. Right.
um, and I've got international affairs majors who are, super pleased about nuclear posture review.
Okay. Um, so so you got these six topics. You got, people having discussions on, social media that you have like several social media outlets
Yeah.
that people are using. They're talking about these topics. So what happens now? What's the next? How do you first off, who's allowed to vote and how does that work?
Yeah, so every school gets one vote. So you can't like have big schools that get a bunch of votes because they have a bunch of people. Every institution that is a member of the National Forensics Association gets one vote,
Okay.
and they get to vote on the six papers that are due May 22nd, and then on May 25th, the topic paper is announced.
Okay.
So this is the winning topic paper that got the most votes. This year was incredibly close, actually. So they do a ranked choice voting, and we actually didn't get the results on May 25th because it was so close. They had to kind of review some tie-breaking procedures and really kind of dig deep and figure out exactly how to break some of these ranked choice ties.
Right.
But to my understanding, the topic areas that were the closest were healthcare, education, and foreign engagement. Were just neck and neck with the nuclear posture review.
Okay.
Um, and in the end, I believe it came down to education reform and nuclear posture, and they were able to finally break the tie and announce that nuclear posture got the win.
Well, that's interesting. Like it does show that people have investment in
Yeah,
this. Like I think that sometimes if you have just a runaway vote one way or the other, it's just
right.
kind of like people just going along with it. So it's nice
Yeah,
having that
that's
that
nice.
sort of discussion.
And I know among our own team, we had a lot of lively debates about, what our ballot would look like. Basically, every team ranked the resolutions 1 through 6, one being the one you want the most, 6 being the least. And every team has a different process for how they will select their vote. I'm sure at some schools the head coach just picks. At our school, I basically just do a Google form, and everybody gets one vote, and then just the democratic result is our ballot.
Oh, got it.
Yeah, I know. I've been around a long time. I've helped write topic papers. I've helped write topics. I've coached a bunch of topics and NFA LD policy, public forum. Basically my feeling is like I'm older. I've experienced a lot of topics, and so to me, I want the students to have more agency over what they talk about for the whole season.
Right. All right, so we've gone through the process from May, through May, and now we are in June, right? Where it's time to start actually writing the wording of the topic. And the way that LD handles this is the committee just puts out how many different versions? Is it 3 or 5?
Minimum of 3.
Minimum of 3. Got it. I see.
I believe that there were 5.
Okay.
Wordings. The committee does a really good job, though, of soliciting community feedback on those wordings. So there were at least 2 Zoom calls that were open to anyone. The committee members were there, but also stakeholders from other schools were also there and able to sort of put their input in. And the process they did this year was they basically the committee chair Justin Kirk of Nebraska. He basically broke down a bunch of different sort of decisions we had to make in regards to wording. Should it be reduce the number of nuclear weapons, or should it be restrict nuclear weapons? Should we be talking about the role of nuclear weapons, or should we say reduce our reliance on nuclear weapons, right? Okay. There's a lot of, specific wording choices that you could use whenever you're writing the resolution. And so basically he assigned different folks who signed up and volunteered to do little research projects on those little decisions, and do some research on what are the definitions of words like restrict or reduce, or what are the role of nuclear weapons in regards to the literature. And folks who cut cards, they did some research, and then they would present their findings at these meetings that we had to kind of inform the decision that the committee has in regards to which wordings they're going to release for vote, but then also for the schools themselves to make an informed choice about what decision they're going to make in regards to what wording they actually picked.
Man, so I'm looking through what do we got here? Here, I'll just show the just straight from the Facebook page. Oh, you can hardly read that. One of them is so these are the different options, right? United States federal government should substantially reduce its reliance on and or the role of nuclear weapons in its national security strategy. Let me see if I could increase the font here. Let's get that out of there. Nope. United States government should substantially reduce the number and or role. That's the one that was eventually chosen, right?
That's the victor right there, number 2.
Yeah. Number 3, United States government should substantially reduce its reliance on nuclear weapons in one or more of the following ways. Okay, so that's become a really popular way of the one or more following ways, and then they list a number of things. Yeah. What's the point of that?
Yeah, so really, if you kind of look at it, it's broken out into kind of 2 kinds of resolutions. I call them basically open-ended resolutions, which are the first 2, and then list resolutions, which are the last 3.
Yeah.
So the idea behind the list, one or more of the following ways, is that it makes it a little easier to predict what the topic areas are going to be for the upcoming season. So let's say that one had been chosen. Basically, okay, if I'm negative and I'm preparing for the affirmatives on the topic, I know that I need to be prepared to respond to asks that change declaratory policy, demobilize deployed operational nuclear weapons, or disarm the nuclear arsenal.
Okay.
Right. So the list idea is to kind of just like lay out in more specific terms exactly what the affirmative cases are going to look like. In fact, if you look at the last two, they're very unique, and I've never actually seen LD at least put out resolutions like this before. The beginning of the like sentence doesn't even have like a direction to it. It's just
Right.
USFG should colon and then it just lists plans basically. It just lists a
Right.
framework. So it would basically just literally say these are the 5 affirmatives you can do. You can adopt no first use, declare sole purpose, reduce one or more legs of the nuclear triad, disarm, or reduce deployment of operational nuclear weapons.
Huh.
So that would be, even less flexibility. So, resolution writing is always this balance between how much flexibility do I want to give the affirmative to
Right.
to write affirmatives that are represented in the academic literature versus how much predictability do I want to give the negative to know what the affirmatives are going to look like before the tournament and have in-depth research to prepare for those
Right.
battles.
Yeah, in the last one, 1, 2, 3, it looks like it just has 3 affirmatives that it's
Yeah.
limiting it to. So, and it's
Yeah, so
similar. Yeah.
it'd basically be 5. So it's limited conditions for nuclear first use, and then reduce one or more legs of the nuclear triad.
Oh, right, right, right.
Nuclear triad being ICBMs, intercontinental ballistic missiles, nuclear bombers, so like airplanes that carry nuclear weapons, and then nuclear submarines. America basically has like 3 legs of what it calls its nuclear triad that kind of make up the bulk of what it calls its nuclear arsenal.
Okay. All right. And so the people went for the open-ended one.
Yeah.
Um,
And that's my theory, by the way, is that if you look at the history of NFA LD, almost always the resolution that's chosen is the one that I would say has elegant wording in the
okay.
sense that it's a short sentence. It's something that's digestible. That makes sense. I read that. I'm like, that you can take that in, and it's not a huge list of things, and that it's usually a little bit more open ended. That those are the ones that tend to win.
Okay. Substantially reduce the number and or role of its nuclear weapons.
Yeah.
All right. So what were the first sort of reactions? What were people talking about once this is released? Now what happens?
So it's off to the races. So these are released on July 1st, I believe. And basically, the first tournaments are the first couple months in September 16th weekend, September 22nd weekend. Those are kind of when tournaments start. And basically from July until then, folks are going to start researching and trying to figure out what are their affirmatives going to be, what are the negatives going to be. This resolution basically breaks it down sort of like 2 arenas. We're talking about the role of nuclear weapons, and then we're talking about the number of nuclear weapons that are in the arsenal of the United States, and they're pretty intertwined.
Okay.
There's definitely some nuances there. So the role of nuclear weapons generally kind of refers to what the United States says it will and will not do
Okay.
with nuclear weapons, right? So mostly we say we will use nuclear weapons to deter nuclear attacks on the United States or any of its allies, or in some narrow set of circumstances, deter any attack, nuclear or otherwise, against us or an ally. And then there's also several international treaties the U.S. is party to, the START Treaty and the Non-Proliferation Treaty, both of which the U.S. sort of like has already committed to, in the long term, reduce the number of nuclear weapons that it has.
Okay. Was the vote close at all? Like, did it have factions in there as well?
Yeah, no, it was definitely a close vote. So I think the factions really came down to the folks that like that open-ended resolution versus
Right.
the ones who love the lists. I really like the lists. A lot of folks really like the open-ended resolutions, and so they
Okay.
won in the end. I don't remember the vote really being that close, though.
Okay.
My sense was that topic two, the one that won, was kind of like everyone's second choice, if that makes sense. You know,
Okay.
like they maybe had like a favorite, maybe like number one was their favorite, and number two was their second favorite, and then the other ones, were far down their list.
Okay.
Or even the folks who liked the list still preferred number two over number one. So
Got it.
basically, I felt like number two was the one that won because some people liked it. The people that didn't like it didn't hate it. And
Right.
since it's ranked choice voting,
Right.
not being the thing that nobody hates in the end sometimes is what wins out.
Okay. All right. So
Yeah.
this is the one that people hated the least.
They hated that one the least. In terms of reactions, I think a lot of folks, the folks who were into nuclear weapons as a topic were obviously overjoyed. Some of the folks I think, had like a little bit of reticence. I've talked to some folks who, don't want to debate the big impacts, the nuclear war
Right.
impacts. They kind of like that more traditional sense of debating realistic scenarios. And I do think that it being more open-ended gave those people a sense of ownership over the place they could take the debate. They could take it to, since it's more open-ended, they could, have affirmatives that were less about, nuclear war and more about maybe, like health impacts or
Right.
environmental impacts, stuff like that.
Okay. It's interesting that the other debate associations like CETA is doing
Yeah,
the
I was
pretty
hoping
much
you
the
were going
same
to bring that
topic.
up.
Yeah. I mean, and so because I'm talking with some of them about their strategies, and I'm wondering if there's going to be a whole lot of overlap. And plus the fact that everyone's got nuclear cards in their back files. I mean, that seems like it would, it's like people are already have like this big old head start. Do you all have some pretty good back files with nuclear talk in it?
Yeah, so I mean, I don't know that our team has ever debated a nuclear weapons topic before, but certainly like we have a lot of files in regards to like the
Right.
impact of nuclear weapons, the potential for nuclear war with different countries, and sort of like discussion of scenarios that could play out if the nuclear breaking point was ever reached. I think we definitely do have that, but the CETA community has debated topics that are pretty similar, once in 2018 and then once
Right.
in 2008, 2009. So, it's one of the first times that I can think of, maybe ever, that
Yeah.
College LD and CETA have picked topics that are, so similar.
I wonder if there's going to be anybody who's like, you know what, let's sign up for an NFA LD tournament. We got the files. Like, why don't we just
Yeah.
jump in?
I mean, so there's some teams that already do cross over. So
Oh,
one team that I would like to say in particular is Missouri State University.
okay.
They're a historically strong school in policy debate. And then several years ago, they also started doing LD, and they've been very successful in LD. They've made the final round multiple times.
Oh,
They've won LD sweepstakes before NFA. And so I'm sure they're pumped because a lot of times they basically have to reinvent the wheel after going to all the policy tournaments, and then they have to reinvent the wheel for the LD tournaments. Now it's definitely not going to be a reinvention. It's going
wow.
to be a tweak.
Man, that's interesting. Like if you pay attention to the topics, the year-long topics, it might actually affect the success potential for any particular team. You know what I mean? How different they are from each other, and since the closer they are, like okay, Missouri State, keep a lookout for them, right?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
every year do that, but I think this year for sure. So one thing that we're doing, our school, is that we're going to enter some policy tournaments this year.
Oh, there you go. And so I was wondering about the other way around. So excellent. Which ones you guys thinking about going to?
So we are signed up already for the Northwestern season opener.
Oh wow.
Like the major opening tournament. So we don't have a lot of expectations going in regards to like winning or anything, because none of us have ever gone to a college policy tournament before. We're just there to take it in and to get that exposure. because we're kind of seeing that maybe there will be a competitive advantage for the teams that do have the policy debates on the topic coming to LD,
right?
Because those speech times are longer, those rounds are longer, there's more evidence involved in those debates. And so, we want to have that exposure too. So, yeah, we're going to throw our hat in the ring and also go to the Northwestern season opener and have some fun there.
Okay, cool. That makes it a nice little segue into what we'll talk about next time when we come back, which is how do you prep for your first tournament? And now we could even throw in a little bit, it's like, how are you doing it for CETA? What sort of changes are you making and how are you adapting to it? All right.
Yeah, no, that's really exciting. That process of going from this ball of clay that is the resolution to some files that are actionable and really, actual useful at tournaments, something I'm pretty passionate about. So I'm excited to talk about it.
All right, excellent. So that's what we'll pick it up, everybody. Thank you very much, Chad Meadows from Western Kentucky University, for joining us, and we will see y'all next time. All right,
See you, everybody.